Hey everyone, my name is Shanice and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. I am here to give you my TBR list for my final challenge of the year. I've been doing this challenge for I think the past 2 years now. It's my short story collections book challenge. And for this I read 12 short story collections, one for each month of the year. This year I'm actually going to do 11 because the first short story collection slash just compilation book that I chose is very big. It's actually the full short story works of one author, so it's a chunky book. But we'll get to that in a second. I did just want to say as an update for 2023, my short story collections challenge was the one challenge I fully completed. I read all 12 on my list and others. Shout out to Lot by Brian Washington, which wasn't on my official TBR list but was one of my favorite books of last year. I love short story collections. I write short stories myself. I've had a lot of practice in doing so. I've been in a lot of creative writing workshops centered around short fiction, and I just love it. It also just suits my full-time work life. I have so little time to read anyway, so the 30-40 minutes that I have like on the bus or something on my commute is a perfect time for me to just pick up a short story collection and read a short story and, you know, count that towards my day's reading goal. I also think it takes such mastery to balance pacing and plot and character development in such a short time. It's another level of writing skill to me, and I love all collections. So if you have any recommendations for me, I'm pretty open to reading any type of collection, any type of genre, sci-fi, fantasy. I want to try it all. So if you have anything, just comment down below, and let's begin with my TBR list for 2024. I briefly mentioned my first pick in my last video, my January wrap-up. And I gushed over it. Still can't really talk about it because February hasn't ended. I can't tell you my full opinions on this book, but for the months of January and February, I decided to read the complete stories by Clarice Lispector. What a majestic piece of work so far. I am on page 405 of around 630-ish pages. Obviously, this is not a collection. It is just a compilation of all of Lispector's short stories. I wanted to read it just because from the glimpse of her writing that I got when I read Agua Viva, which it went way above my head. I could make out that the writing was exquisite, but I couldn't really penetrate it that much. But I knew that there was a gift and a talent that I wanted to explore more, and Lispector, just from that piece, challenged me, so it intrigued me and I just wanted to give this a go. And I'm telling you right now, this might be one of my first 5 stars of the year. And I didn't have any 5 stars of 2023, so Lispector is a pioneer on my rating system so far. So this is divided into a few sections. The first is first stories, which so far is my favorite thing that I've read all year, but in this compilation, I think it's amazing that these were her first short stories. It's unbelievable. After first stories is Family Ties, then The Foreign Legion, then Covert Joy, then Where Were You at Night, then The Via Crucis of the Body, and then Vision of Splendor, which is one very long story, and then the last is Final Stories. And I read the introduction, which is very weird, but I'll get to that in my February wrap-up. And I also read the translator's note. This was written in Portuguese, Clarice Lispector was an immigrant to Brazil. She comes from Ukrainian background, and she was raised in Brazil, is Brazilian, and wrote and spoke in Portuguese. And so this was translated to English by Katrina Dodson. And the introduction here was by Benjamin Moser. So far, Clarice Lispector is now one of my favorite writers. Simply incredible, and I cannot wait to share my full review, my full thoughts on this treasure at the end of February. And then for the month of March, I am choosing The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Dispiace. This was published in 2020 and won several awards. It has 9 short stories, and this edition I picked up at the Tribeca Barnes & Noble in its last days. This is a collection that features stories about 4 generations of characters that are grappling with who they want to be in the world, caught as they are between the church's double standards and their own needs and passions. I've heard nothing but great things about this one, and just that description kind of reminds me of the Beyonce song Church Girl. Then for the month of April, I am going to read Bliss Montage by Ling Ma. This was published in 2022, so it's quite recent. So the official summary says that in Bliss Montage, Ling Ma brings us 8 wildly different tales of people making their way through the madness and reality of our collective delusions. Love and loneliness, connection and possession, friendship, motherhood, the idea of home. And these and other scenarios investigate the ways that the outlandish and the ordinary are shockingly, deceptively, heartbreakingly alive. I've seen it described as challenging and bizarre, having read Severance by Ling Ma, and I think actually one of the short stories in this collection was published in the New Yorker, and I liked it, but I don't remember. Whenever I like a short story, I save it in my binder, which is actually on a shelf over here. So I'll look through it and I'll probably post on the screen the title of that short story if it was in fact within this collection, but I think it was, and I did like it. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Then for the month of May, we have 1989 Self-Help by Lori Moore, an author I've never read anything from, and I know she's a great in the world of short fiction and I think essay collections also, but I've read nothing by her until this year. And this seems to be one of the favorites in terms of the short story collections that she's written, so I'm gonna go that route. As usual, I saw Shaylin from Shaylin Writes review this and they loved it, and so I want to read it too. And so what I know about this is that it focuses on a lot of little details in our daily lives, the quotidian. It's very emotional and kind of sneaks up on you with its sentimentality. So I'm in. And then for the month of June is maybe one of my most anticipated short story collections on this list. It's called Innards by Mehohodi Oemfele Mechene, and this is a short story collection with 12 stories in it, centered around characters living in Soweto, South Africa, and it follows these characters throughout the end of apartheid and then through to democracy in South Africa. So I feel like this is going to be one of my favorites of the year, not just short story collections, but just books of the year. And I'm very happy that it was published last year, because, you know, with these challenges that I do, they do take up a lot of my reading time throughout the year, so I don't always have the luxury of reading a new release. As soon as it comes out, I have to kind of wait a little bit. So I have like this long growing list of books or, you know, short story collections that came out last year that I haven't gotten around to. So this one and a few others on this list are part of that growing list, but I have high hopes for this. And then in the month of July, I will be reading Hit Parade of Tears by Izumi Suzuki. So this was translated and published last year in English, but apparently it was originally published in Japanese like 30 to 40 years ago. And just to mention the crew of translators that worked on this, their names are Sam Bett, David Boyd, Daniel Joseph, and Helen O'Horan. Again, I must read the summary because it just sounds fantastic. On Verso Books, which is the publisher of this edition, they say that in this new collection, Suzuki's skewed imagination distorts and enhances some of the classic concepts of science fiction and fantasy. A philandering husband receives a bestial punishment from a wife with her own secrets to keep. A music lover finds herself in a timeline both familiar and as wrong as can be. A misfit band of space pirates discover a mysterious baby among the stars. Emma, the Bovary-like character from one of Suzuki's stories Interminable Boredom, lands herself in a bizarre romantic pickle. Tell me that doesn't sound amazing and weird. Yes, sign me up for this. I cannot wait, again, obviously, like for all of these collections, but I can't wait for July to read this, and it's my birthday month. It's gonna be good. In August, I've chosen the collection Emergency by Kathleen Alcott. This is apparently about women facing the point of no return. It is about the lack of freedoms in the United States for women. It is about the guilt that follows them. It moves from places in Europe to places in the US. It hones in on class discrepancies. And I've read bits of Kathleen Alcott's other works. I believe I read a short story that was about a photograph or like a painting or something. It's been a while, honestly, but her writing is very lush. I guess you can call it purple prose. She just has a very beautiful lyrical way of describing things. This is another collection that I've just seen rave reviews about, and I'm excited to sit down with a full Kathleen Alcott work instead of, little snippets here and there. Then for the month of September, I've chosen Witness by Jamel Brinkley, another author that I've also read bits and pieces of, but never a full collection or anything like that. From what I know, this has 10 short stories, and it asks of its characters, what does it mean to bear witness to the world around you? I believe some ghosts are narrators in this. It's set in New York City, like a lot of Jamel Brinkley stories are. It also asks its characters about the role of being a bystander, of speaking up and acting up when you see something going wrong around you. So I feel like it's going to be a tense read, and as usual, very beautifully written. Then for the month of October, I chose White Cat, Black Dog by Kelly Lang. These are apparently 7 Scottish fairy tale reinventions. It finds inspiration in the Brothers Grimm. It features characters on the hunt for love and connection. And I've also seen that it's the Brothers Grimm meets Black Mirror meets Alice in Wonderland, which I don't understand how all of them meet in the middle, but I'm curious to find out. Then in November, I've chosen If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. Already from the summary, this is going to be another potential favorite for me. These are interlinked short stories that center around the immigration of a family from Jamaica to Miami and all the struggles on identity and finances and place and belonging and loss and all of that. All of that is rendered through these 12 stories. This has been on my radar since last year, and November cannot come fast enough. And lastly, for the month of December, I've chosen Roman Stories by one of my favorite authors, Jhumpa Lahiri, and this is a collection of 10 stories. 10 stories written in Italian by Jhumpa Lahiri and then self-translated into English with the help of her editor, Todd Portnovitz. This is a hideous cover. I just want to get that out of the way. I'm not entirely sure what Knopf was thinking, but here is this hideous cover. Apologies that you have to look at it for so long. Honestly, I didn't even read the summary. I just saw Lahiri has a new publication coming out and I am getting it and I'm reading it. A year later I will read it, but still I did purchase it. And one thing that did strike me and does intrigue me about this, aside from the fact that it was written by Jhumpa Lahiri, is that these are stories steeped in the moods of Italian master Alberto Moravia and guided in the concluding tale by the ineluctable ghost of Dante Alighieri, whose words lead the protagonist toward a new way of life. So props to the editorial assistant who wrote that. That sounds fantastic. And I mean, just look at Jhumpa. She's a queen. I love her. So can't wait. This could have been about rocks and mice, and I still would have read it. So Roman stories for December. And that is it for my TBR list. This one is the one that I'm most confident I'm actually going to finish in 2024. But I am genuinely just so excited by this list. We've got Japanese literature, we've got South African literature, we've got some fantasy and seems like fables, we've got some minimalist but also some maximalist writing styles, and some favorites, and I'm sure some new favorite authors as well. Well, definitely new with Clarice Lispector, who's now one of my favorite authors of all time. But I am pumped for this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have some short story collections on your TBR list for this year. If not, then maybe you can add some of these to yours. I will see you all next week with another bookish video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you so choose to, and see you next week. Bye.